Hi, it's Gene, retired in Mexico, and I just wanted to pay tribute to some of the people that passed away this year that just meant something to me, that I had an affinity for them. Some of them I've seen in concert, and I'll let you know which ones those are. But these are in the order. I took them off Wikipedia, and this is just in order. So, first up, we have Marlena Shaw. And I saw her in 1992. She opened for Dizzy Gillespie. She was born in New York City. She's a R&B, jazz, and soul singer. She passed away at the age of 84. It was a good opening act. I enjoyed her show. Next, Aston Family Man Barrett, born in Kingston, Jamaica. Now, he was a bassist for Bob Marley and the Wailers. The drummer was his brother, Carlton Barrett. I just think they're one of the best rhythm sections, along with Sly and Robbie. So last year we lost Robbie Shakespeare of Black Uhuru, and this year Aston Barrett of Bob Marley and the Wailers. So just two of the finest reggae bass players you'll ever hear. Just great. Then there's, if I can say his name correctly, Seiji Ozawa. He's a classical conductor, born in Shenyang, China. It had a different name back then, but it's now known as Shenyang. And his credits are just too numerous to name. He didn't even really have a specialty. Just such a wide range. Certainly one of the premier conductors. He passed away at the age of 88. Next, we have Mojo Nixon from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. He was popular mostly in the 80s, a little bit in the 90s, and he was just funny as hell. I really enjoy Mojo Nixon. I wanted to give you some of his song titles here. He's a singer-songwriter. Did a lot of collaborations with a guy named Skid Roper. But these are some of his song titles. Jesus at McDonald's, Stuffin' Martha's Muffin. That's Martha from, what's her last name? I forget, but from MTV. I Hate Banks, Burn Down the Malls, and Debbie Gibson is Pregnant with My Two-Headed Love Child. Good stuff. I really enjoy him. Kind of in the rockabilly, psychobilly mode, but he was very talented. He was only 66. Next, Carl Wallinger, born in Wales. Got his start with the Waterboys, his big start anyway. I don't know what bands he was in before that. And then he left the Waterboys after their album This Is the Sea, which is one of their two most famous albums, to form World Party. And I love World Party. Great tunes from them. Yeah, he was only 66 as well. Next is, if I can say his name correctly, is Maurizio Pollini from Milan, Italy. He was a classical pianist. And I have his Nocturnes by Chopin. Wonderful. He's also known for Debussy and some other artists, but the Chopin is, from the Nocturnes, the one I own, is the most streamed track on Spotify. Great interpreter of Chopin. He was 82. Next, Clarence Frogman Henry. He got his nickname Frogman because he could sing like a frog. He's born in New Orleans, Louisiana, and he had two well-known singles, Ain't Got No Home, where he sings in his regular voice, then sings like a girl, then sings like a frog. And his other big hit was I Don't Know Why, But I Do. That's it. I mean, but still, he was the New Orleans R&B from the 50s is just great, great music. Shirley and Lee and Alan Toussaint and all those great people from the 50s. Just love those songs. He was 87. He was a bit of a clown, and but very talented. Then we have Dickie Betts, born in West Palm Beach, Florida, guitarist for the Allman Brothers Band. And he wrote some of their most notable songs, such as Ramblin' Man in Memory of Elizabeth Reed and Blue Sky. My favorite Allman Brothers album is At Fillmore, and In Memory of Elizabeth Reed, probably my favorite track. And he and Duane Allman just trading leads. Really great. He was 80 years old. Next, Duane Eddy, born in Corning, New York. And I think he really was the last rock and roller. I said last year when Jerry Lee Lewis died that he was the last one. Well, he was the last big one, but Duane Eddy had a few hits as well. His best known one was Rebel Rouser. And that was recorded in Phoenix, Arizona, which is where I lived prior to moving to Mexico. And he's the father of twangy guitar. He also did a cover of Peter Gunn, and he was 86. Instrumentalist, but really good stuff. Next, Steve Albini, Pasadena, California. His bands were Big Black and Shellac primarily, but he was known, of course, as a record producer and, including bands like Nirvana. And some people don't like him, but I like most of his productions. It depends on the artist. So I enjoyed his productions for people like PJ Harvey. He's got a really sort of dry, non-embellished style. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but I have a lot of respect for him. I did see an interview one time where he was really down on sampling. I don't know, controversial guy, but I like him. He was only 61, of course, big shock. And on my channel, when I reacted to Shellac, I was really surprised to have his widow comment on the reaction. That was really nice of her. Next, David Sanborn, who I saw in 1991 at about a 2,500-seater arena. He was born in Tampa, Florida, and what can you say about Sanborn? I mean, he did so many sessions and had this distinct style. He had a Cracker Jack band with him when I saw him. I first heard him, I didn't know it. I really first heard him on Todd Rundgren's A Wizard, a True Star, but I really became aware of him on David Bowie's Young Americans and David Bowie's David Live. But I'd also heard him a lot on the radio. I think especially of James Taylor's song, How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You, which was a cover. That sax is just so Sanborn. But I wanted to make one other comment. He had a television show on, I think it was on NBC. It was called Sunday Night, and he had the coolest guests. He was sort of the American version of Jules Holland, and that television show was great. I used to videotape those shows. Fantastic. Just love him. He was 78. Then we have James Chance from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Not a really well-known name, but I used to get cassettes from a cassette-only record label. Yeah, they didn't do any CDs or vinyl. They only did cassettes, and they were called ROIR, R-O-I-R, Reach Out International Records. And I had ordered a cassette by James Chance and the Contortions, and I really liked it. It's he's a saxophonist and a vocalist, or was, I should say. And he kind of was No Wave meets James Brown. Really interesting. And he was in the band Teenage Jesus and the Jerks with Lydia Lunch. And then he formed his own band, James Chance and the Contortions. And yeah, I think their live acts were pretty well renowned. Major figure in the No Wave movement, which is obviously not the most popular form, but I like No Wave, and he was 71. Next, Martin Mull from Chicago, Illinois. Now, he was pretty much a comedian and an actor, but he also did a couple musical albums, and I really like his songs. One is called Men, and it's a bunch of pirates on a ship, and I still to this day will sometimes at a party or a conversation just break into Men, 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 because it's from that song on the pirate ship, and it's hilarious. He also did a song called Dueling Tubas, where they did the banjo parts with tubas instead. So great sense of humor. He also was on a show I really liked quite a bit called Mary Hartman. Mary Hartman, which was a Norman Lear production, very controversial at the time because it had no laugh track. And because of that, it kind of died. But I think people are more open to that now. But anyway, he just was a really interesting dude, and I liked him. 80 years old he was. Next, if I can say his name correctly, Toumani Diabate from Bamako, Mali. He was a master kora player, and I've listened to a number of his albums. I happen to like African music quite a lot, especially North African music and Central African music. And he was great, and he was only 58. In international circles, he was kind of a star. Next, John Mayall, born in Cheshire, UK, if I can say that correctly. You guys probably know John Mayall. He formed the Blues Breakers, and it gave all these people a start. Eric Clapton started with Blues Breakers, and you know, it sort of reminds me of Miles Davis in that everybody that joined his band left and formed a solo career. So Clapton, yeah, went on to, you know, Derek and the Dominoes and Blind Faith and all that. And then Peter Green was in the band, and he left to form Fleetwood Mac. Then he got Mick Taylor, who quit to join the Rolling Stones after Brian Jones died. Also on bass, he had John McVie, who also joined forces with Peter Green to form Fleetwood Mac. I absolutely love, I mean, he was a guitar player, but I love John Mayall's harmonica. He's one of my favorite harmonica players. 90 years old. Next, Greg Kihn of the Greg Kihn Band. I saw him twice, and he was a very good performer. I saw him in 1981 and 1984. Both great shows. The first time I saw him in 81, when he was still kind of blowing up with the breakup song, I had row one, so he was looking right down at me. I've always thought he looked a little bit like Beau Bridges. Anybody else think that? He was born in Baltimore, Maryland, and then, of course, had a huge hit song with Jeopardy. But these were decent radio hits. And he was kind of in that sort of Springsteen Mellencamp genre, but with a little bit, with a lot more new wave, kind of a new wave-ish style of that. He was 75. Herbie Flowers, maybe not a well-known name, born in Middlesex, UK, but he was a bass player, and he has, according to Wikipedia, he's played on 500 hit recordings. Yeah. So I've heard him many, many times. He's recorded with David Bowie, Elton John, David Essex, that song Rock On. That's got a really distinctive bass part. Brian Ferry, Harry Nilsson, Cat Stevens. But of course, his best known bass line today is the upright bass on Walk on the Wild Side, that distinctive bass that opens the song. He was 86 years old. Next is Chris Christopherson, who I did see technically in 1976, and I'll explain that in a bit, but he was born in Brownsville, Texas. Interesting guy, Rhodes Scholar, Army vet, superb lyricist. I've got him up there with people like Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell, Leonard Cohen. I just think he's one of the great lyricists, and probably his best known song is Me and Bobby McGee, which Janis Joplin recorded, Windshield Wipers, Slappin' Time. Such a great lyric. But I think the song I like more than any is Sunday Morning Coming Down. Um, that's about after a Saturday night of smoking cigarettes and drinking beer. He's hung over in the morning and he walks through the neighborhood and smells fried chicken. And it's a really sad song, but it's beautiful. But I saw him in '76 at the filming of the movie A Star Is Born. He co-starred with Barbra Streisand, and Chris Christopherson and Barbra Streisand both sang songs separately and together. They would stop and start them because they were filming. And we were extras in the movie as part of the crowd. So that was cool. And he was 88 years old. Yeah, kind of miss Chris. My former wife always thought I looked like him. I think that's a huge compliment. I disagree. But anyway, just a side note there. Next is Phil Lesh, from the bassist of the Grateful Dead. I saw the Grateful Dead in 1994, which was pretty late. Jerry Garcia died shortly after. Phil Lesh was born in Berkeley, California. And obviously there's so many recordings of that band. But if you're the bassist for the Grateful Dead, you got to know what you're doing. I've read a little bit about him, and he's credited. You know, he wasn't necessarily a songwriter or much of a singer in the band, but they credit his bass work with kind of being the springboard for everybody else in the band to jam. So he was a really important component. So rest in peace, Phil Lesh. Next, Quincy Jones. I had to put him on here. I don't have any particular feeling for him as a man, but boy, his record and television productions with Count Basie, Tony Bennett, Ray Charles, Michael Jackson, which is Thriller and Bad, Aretha Franklin, good stuff. And one of my favorite compositions of his, he's also a songwriter, and he was also a trumpet player, is I like the theme to Sanford and Son. I think that's just such a clever piece of television theme music. Everybody knows Quincy, 91 years old. Next, a couple jazz legends. We got Lou Donaldson, born in Baden, North Carolina, or Baden, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Jazz saxophonist, recorded a number of solo albums, and he also did sessions with Art Blakey, Milt Jackson, Thelonious Monk, Jimmy Smith, Horace Silver, Clifford Brown. Yeah, great sax player. My favorite sax player from that era is John Coltrane, but Lou Donaldson, Hank Mobley, some of those other guys, really good. He was 98. Yeah, lived a nice long life. And then on drums, we lost Roy Haynes this year, and he's a legend. Born in Boston, Massachusetts. Played with Sarah Vaughan, John Coltrane, Miles Davis, Pat Metheny, McCoy Tyner, Sonny Rollins, Thelonious Monk, Dave Brubeck. And that's just a start. If you look at his discography, incredible. Great drummer. Has a I think a signature sound, I would say. Yeah, very good. I've always enjoyed his drumming. And he made it to 99 years old. So I think he's got the record on here. Yeah, wow, Roy Haynes. Next we have Shel Talmy. Now, he's kind of more of just a behind-the-scenes guy, record producer, but he produced 3 songs that I just adore from the 60s. The Kinks, You Really Got Me, The Who, My Generation, and the Easy Beats, Friday on My Mind. He had a sound that really helped define that sort of pre-garage rock style that was so influential. I mean, when you listen to those songs, they're incredible. They're incredible. He's an American. I said he was born in Chicago, Illinois, and those are all British bands. I think so. The Easy Beats might be from Australia, but I don't remember off the top of my head. but I think they're English. Yeah, he just recorded. But anyway, he moved to England in 1962 and just fell in with the scene. He was 87 years old. Then we have Peter Sinfield, who was a lyricist, a prog lyricist born in London, and primarily known for his work with King Crimson and Emerson, Lake and Palmer in The Court of the Crimson King, Brain Salad Surgery. Now, today I have mixed opinions about his lyrics, but when I was younger, I really ate him up. Yeah, sometimes it's hard for me to listen to some of his words, but he was a big influence on me when I was younger, and I wanted to acknowledge him. Yeah, really important. So, Greg Lake was in King Crimson and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So that's the connection there. And Greg Lake was not a good lyricist, so they enjoined him to help out. But yeah, signature lyrics. Next up, we have another international artist, Zakir Hussain from Bombay, India. He was a master tabla player, but he crossed over. That's what's so interesting about him. He played with people like George Harrison, Van Morrison, yeah, on Into the Music, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Mickey Hart, who's from the Grateful Dead, and then with John McLaughlin, primarily in the band Shakti. Great tabla player. I love that instrument. He was 73. And we got a couple more here. Next one is Slim Dunlap, who I want to acknowledge because I did see him in 1991. He was born in Plainview, Minnesota, and he was the guitarist or second guitarist for the Replacements from 1987 to 1991. Loved the Replacements, and that's who I saw him with. And he didn't play past 91 because they broke up. He replaced Bob Stinson. They were great. I really enjoyed the Replacements. I was with a bunch of guys. We were just having the best time rocking out to that band. And yeah, great guitar player. He was 73. And then finally, we're into the December deaths now. Wanted to recognize Richard Perry, New York City born record producer. His credits are numerous. I probably first heard him or became aware of him with album. He did You're So Vain, Carly Simon, but I wanted to acknowledge the three artists that I really just love his production style on these albums. He worked with Harry Nilsson on Nilsson Schmilsson. He produced that song Without You, as well as Jump Into the Fire. And I love Nilsson Schmilsson. That's a great album. He's worked with Leo Sayer. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Leo Sayer, but I love that album, Endless Flight. Beautiful production on there. And then Ringo Starr's best album, Ringo, the one that he recorded in 73, that has a photograph and many of his best songs on it. And I've always liked Richard Perry's style. So that's it. Let me know what you think. There's a lot of omissions on here, people that might be important to you. But this is just the people that I had a real affinity for. So thank you for joining the channel. And as we say here in Bonita, Mexico, buen dia.